Okay, I'm going to put some of my business cards. Oh, yeah.
And this is movable.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Yes, you're welcome. Thank you.
Good evening. I want to welcome everybody to Aldersgate United Methodist Church. We're so glad that you're with us this evening, nice and crisp as it is. It's February in Nebraska, and we also want to greet everybody who's watching online tonight. Thank you so much for coming. I'm Carrie Beckenhauer. I'm a member of the Lasting Legacy team here at Aldersgate. A couple of housekeeping things before we begin. One is that the restrooms are out the double doors you just came in, to your left and down the hallway. When you see the water fountain, you'll know you're in the right spot. You'll also notice that we have emergency exits on every wall in the sanctuary. Not planning to use them, but just in case, be sure you know the one closest to you. We also have some handouts that we have used up, but we do have some business cards on the back table, so be sure to pick one up. This is our second presentation in our series for life and legacy planning. The speaker will talk for about 20 to 30 minutes. Then we will have, the speaker will speak for about 30 to 40 minutes. Then we'll have 20 to 30 minutes for question and answer. I will bring around a wireless mic. You ask a question, that's so people online can hear what the question is. Okay, Janine Bryant is originally from North Dakota. It's probably even colder there. Has her BA degree from Northwestern College in Orange, Iowa. So she kept moving south. MA degree from UNL here in Lincoln, keeps moving south. She's an active member of Lincoln's Coalition for Older Adult Health Promotion, as well as a member of the Lincoln Caregiver Education Group. She lives in Lincoln with her husband and 2 children. She is the owner and CEO of Changing Spaces, a senior move management company in Lincoln, Nebraska. She has helped provide right-sizing and relocation services to seniors since 2010. During that time, she has been actively involved in the downsizing and moving processes of hundreds of older adults. She's also the author of 2 books, Keep the Memories, Not the Stuff, and Ready to Right Size, a step-by-step guide to your right-sizing journey for older adults and their loved ones. Janine has been featured on numerous podcasts and is a regular contributor on KFOR 1240 AM radio. Please join me in welcoming Janine Bryant.
Thank you so much. I love speaking about right sizing, so much so that I set an alarm on my phone for 7:40, because otherwise we'd be here till 10, okay? I would just keep going and going and going. It's such a rich topic because it's one that everyone can relate to. Raise your hand if you have stuff in your house you're not using, don't need, and don't want. Yep. And it's not just, you don't have to be an older adult to have that, right? Any person, most people in the United States have too much stuff in their house. All right. Oh, a little bit further away. Yep. Okay, there we go. Okay, so thank you for coming, and I apologize for running out of my little bags, but I do have my business cards on that back table, so feel free to take those, and feel free to take notes, and if you have a pen and paper, you do have a pen and paper in the little bag that I gave you, and so if you have one of those, I want you to take notes, and if you don't, you can take notes on your phone, or you just listen real well. But this is the pad of paper. I'm going to be giving away a copy of my books later tonight, so that's what this first page is for. If you want to enter your name to win a book, you can write your name on this, but the rest of these sheets are blank, so you can take notes on that. And what are we taking notes about? Well, we're taking notes about your stuff. I am not here to convince you to get rid of all of your stuff. I'm not here to convince you to be a minimalist. I want you to right size your things. And what is that? Oh, I'm going to try to click. Click. There we go. Okay, I talk about this term right sizing. And a lot of people say, what? Is right sizing really downsizing? Well, most of the time, in most cases, yes, it is. But right sizing is a more positive spin, and it's finding that perfect place between too much and too little. Remember when we all raised our hands earlier and we said we have too much stuff in our house? I'm encouraging all of us to find that perfect place between too much and too little. I don't want you to get rid of everything. I want you to keep the best and let go of the rest. Okay? So when we are getting rid of things, when we're decluttering our stuff in our house, start with the low-hanging fruit. And I'll give you some examples later on tonight. But don't start with your photographs, okay? The photographs, that's one of the hard things, okay? Start, I don't know, in your bathroom. Start looking through the towels in your linen closet, okay? We want to get rid of the stuff that we don't need, use, or want so that we can keep the best stuff. I run a senior move management company here in Lincoln called Changing Spaces, SRS. We are in our 17th year of business, and we help seniors downsize and move. So our typical client is someone in their 70s, 80s, or 90s who has been in their home for 30, 40, or 50 years. That's like typical, okay? Most of our clients are moving to a retirement community, an independent living apartment. Some of them are downsizing just to a townhome, but they are facing a situation where they're going to be giving up half or more of their square footage, which means you have to get rid of half or more of your stuff, right? Because we all know we can't fit 10 pounds of flour in a 5-pound sack, right? So if we're downsizing, we've got to go through our stuff and we've got to decide what we're going to keep and what we're going to let go of. And most of our clients are overwhelmed by that prospect. And if they haven't moved in 40 years, does that sound like anyone in this room? Okay, that stuff tends to accumulate in those drawers and in those cupboards and in those closets. So that's what our team at Changing Spaces does. We come in and we walk alongside them through that whole process. We measure the furniture and we do a floor plan. We figure out what furniture is going to fit in the new house. We help them sort through the little stuff, okay, the cupboards, closets, Christmas decorations. We bring the boxes, we do the packing, we manage move day, and we get you unpacked. So we help you. I always say we're like your daughters who come in. God bless those adult daughters, okay, who are helpful to their parents. Some of you have them, some of you don't. But we come in and we kind of help our clients through that move process. After the move is over, then we also are estate liquidators. So we run estate sales and online auctions to sell whatever is left. So those are our two services at Changing Spaces. We're helping our clients find that perfect place between too much and too little. Most of our clients are leaving homes where there are entire rooms or entire floors of their home that are not being used. Sometimes we visit homes, I was just in one earlier this week, where all of the doors on the second floor are closed all winter because they don't want to heat those rooms because no one's using those rooms, right? Most of our clients are living in a home where they raise their children, the children have grown, and now it's time to find something a little bit smaller. This is a great quote that always hits home for everyone because we know deep down it's true. It's not from me, it's from professional organizer Sue DeRoos, and she says that everyone gets organized at some point, we just might not be around for it, right? And she was kind enough to mention the books I've written. I wrote this book, Keep the Memories, Not the Stuff, and the first line in that is that, I think, the brutal reality is that people die, and their stuff must go somewhere. An interesting exercise that I think is to think about a loved one you have lost, maybe someone who died 5 or more years ago. Ask yourself, where's all of their stuff now? Like, what happened to all that stuff? I can think about both of my grandmothers passed away in 1992. Both of my grandfathers passed away in 1994. My mother passed away in 2005. Like and my dad's moved out of that house. So all the things that were in those houses, like, where did it go? And I'm not just talking about like the trunk that came over on the boat from Norway. That's in my house. Okay, I have that. But what happened with their dishes, and what happened with their Tupperware and their end tables and their Q-tips, and right? We will all get organized eventually. We just might not be around for it. Everyone will die, and our stuff must go somewhere. So that is why going through this right-sizing process at any age is a gift. It's a gift you give to your children. Raise your hand if you've ever been in a situation where you had to empty out a parent's house after they passed away. Raise your hand if you thought it was hard. Yeah, okay. Because not only are you dealing with the mourning of your parents, but now you're dealing with all this logistical, what are we gonna do with all this stuff? So going through that right-sizing process is a gift you give to your children. It's a gift you give to your spouse. You know, they don't tell you when you get married that one of you has to go first, do they? But one of us is probably, everyone who's married, one of us is going to be left behind. And so I've visited with enough, both men and women, who are completely overwhelmed and a little angry that their spouse died and left them with all this stuff in this house. And right-sizing is a gift to yourself as well, because it does weigh on us. Even if it's subconsciously, all that stuff does weigh on us. It weighs on you so much, in fact, that you came out on a night when it's 22 degrees at 7 o'clock at night to hear me talk about it. So going through this right-sizing process is a gift to yourself, to your spouse, to your kids. There you go. That's a little changing spaces in a nutshell, which I kind of went over for you. Okay, and we're going to talk about my books. That's our team. We've got about 25 folks on our team. And like I said, this is our 17th year in business. People often ask me, how did you get into this work? And here's a picture of there's 5 fellows up there who influenced me. That's my parents' house. And those are my grandparents, my 2 grandfathers. There's a great uncle in there, and then there's 2 old bachelor farmers who didn't have anywhere to go every holiday, and so they came over to my parents' house. I grew up in North Dakota on the farm, and I grew up, I always say, amongst a whole bunch of old people, and I say that lovingly. To me, old people is not a derogatory term. It's a term of affection. These were my family, and then here's the rest of my family. There's 2 of my grandmothers, my great aunt, and then one of my grandfathers. That's me and my brother in those framed pictures up on the wall, and that harvest gold paint on the lower part of my parents' wall. And that harvest gold linoleum, too. So how did I get into this work? It's because of these people. I watched, as a kid, both of my grandmothers passed away in 1992, both of my grandfathers passed away in 1994. My mother was an only child, so it all fell to her to deal with her parents' house. My dad has 1 sibling who lives out of state. It all fell to him. And I grew up on a farm in North Dakota. Both sets of grandparents were farmers, and when you're farmers, you don't just have a full house, right? You have a full barn and a full Quonset and a full shed and a couple garages. And so I watched my parents over the course of, it took them probably 2 years to get those places emptied out. At the time, my parents were in their 40s. They had 2 small kids, and they were growing their farming operation as fast as they could, right? The stress level was to the max. Some people in this room can probably relate to that, if you think back to when you lost your parents, right? And so I always say, and my dear mother really was always gonna get organized. She never quite made it. And so I always say that this work that I do, I'm kind of perpetually trying to help my mom clean out her house. So one of the things that helps when you're thinking about leaving a good legacy is to carefully curate the stuff that you leave behind, because we will leave behind stuff. And boy, wouldn't it be nice if the stuff we left behind was a blessing instead of a burden? We would really love it if our kids were not muttering under their breath a week after the funeral as they are clearing out this house. Gosh darn it, Mom, why didn't you throw anything out, right? I've seen a lot of families who have that exact expression, right? The way we can think about being intentional about the stuff we leave behind is to really internalize this idea that objects don't hold memories, people do. Because here's a phrase that I hear every single week: my kids don't want my stuff. Those ungrateful kids, right? And you're right, they don't. They don't want all of your stuff. They probably do want some of your things, a very select, number of your things. But they do not want all of your things, because it's different now. I know there are probably people here who remember when they got married and they moved into that first apartment with their spouse or that first house, they had nothing, right? So they were thrilled to get that hand-me-down furniture from their parents and whatever. And now there's a lot more options for cheap furniture. And your kids might want some cheap furniture from the store rather than, your 30-year-old dining room table, right, that you're wanting to give them. So kids don't necessarily want our stuff, but that doesn't mean that they're gonna forget us when we're gone, that they don't love us, or that they won't miss us, okay? And why is that? Because objects don't hold memories. People do. We think about all those people out in California who just lost their house in those fires. So many people lost everything, but those people still remember their grandparents, right? Those people still remember their babies, even if they don't have the keepsakes that were stored in their house, right? Because the memories are in us. We're gonna talk about that a little bit more. One of the ironies is that all people want to feel autonomous, right? We all want to feel like we're in control. Of course we do. And I think one of the biggest fears as we get older is that we really fear losing that control. And so we try to maintain that control by holding on tightly to our stuff, to our objects. So tightly, in fact, that it might prevent us from doing something that overall would be a positive change, like a move, perhaps, okay? Maybe a move to a retirement community. My mother-in-law passed away last year. She was 90, and we moved her to the Legacy a couple years before her death, and I can tell you that her social life didn't just double when she moved to the Legacy. I bet it increased 10 times, okay? And not only did her health improve, she was getting better nutrition when she moved into those places, but she had people around her, and she saw them multiple times a day. And she was a pretty social person before she moved in. It just skyrocketed after she moved in. For her, it was a great choice. It may not be the right choice for everyone, but what's challenging for me is when I see people who say, I don't want to make a move because what would I do with all my stuff? Not sure. Yeah, look at these pictures. These are good pictures. This is not the home of anyone in this room, don't worry. This is a home, this was definitely pre-COVID, so it was more than 5 years ago that we worked in this home. And you look at this as a kitchen, and then this is a basement storage room. And you know this phrase that I had up here, the less we own, the less we are owned. I think anyone who has a lake cabin can understand this, or anyone who owns a boat can understand this. The things that we own sometimes own us. My husband says this all the time because he hates mowing the lawn. He is ready to move someplace where he doesn't have to mow, okay? I'm saying, we're not quite there yet, honey, but it owns you because every weekend, whether he wants to or not, he's out there mowing that lawn, right? If you go to a lake cabin, you're spending the first several hours mowing the lawn, sweeping up the cobwebs, buying groceries, right? Every season when you get that boat out, it's got to be serviced, whatever. So often the stuff that we own owns us. This is a smaller example of that. You don't have to have second homes or boats. Sometimes it's your Tupperware, it's your Pyrex collection, it's your Crocs, it's your Christmas decorations, right? If we could zoom in on these pictures of these very full rooms, that's what you would see. It's just, what's that S word? Don't worry, we're in a church. Stuff. It's the other S word. It's just stuff. And this gal, she had 5 kids, and her husband had passed away, and she was having some memory issues, and the kids did not trust her. She really shouldn't have been driving. She was, but she shouldn't have been driving. And the kids really, they were like, Mom, we need to get you moved to a retirement community. Guess what her number one objection was? What am I going to do with all my stuff? Right? The less we own, the less we are owned. I just want you to think about that. I'm not very good at math, and so I want to illustrate something here, and I'm going to pretend that we're all going to live to 100. My grandparents, not one of them made it past 82, so I'm probably more than half done. But if, let's say we made it all to 100, then our life can be broken up into 4 quarters. First quarter is ages 0 to 25. Second quarter is ages 25 to 50. Third quarter, 50 to 75, and fourth quarter, 75 to 100. So our first quarter in life, we don't own very much stuff, right? We were talking about getting married at 22, and you don't have anything to your name. Our second quarter, that's when we really start ramping up our stuff, right? We buy a house, we're maybe raising kids, we're buying stuff for the kids, okay? Money is probably stretched tight, you're stressed, you're working a whole bunch, and now you're caring for your aging parents and whatever. Okay, that's quarter 2. Quarter 3 is the danger quarter for clutter, I'm gonna say. Because quarter 3 is when you might be retiring, your kids might be leaving the house, so now you've got some extra room, and if you like to shop, you've got the time and the money to do it, and you've got the space in your house to fill up, right? And so a lot of times your stuff, I don't have any statistics on this, but I would venture to say the amount of stuff you own doubles between quarter 2 and quarter 3. Especially if you're a woman, but probably guys too. You guys, if you like going to auctions and, garage sales, buying stuff like that. Women, if you're at Hobby Lobby every other week. And I'm saying this because I am one of you. I love to shop too. I just don't have, the time and the space and the money yet to do it. But boy, once I hit retirement, I'm ready to go, okay? But when you hit quarter 4, 75 to 100, it becomes time to kind of confront the possessions that you have accumulated in your life, right? Have you guys heard of that book? It's called The Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleaning. And it's a very popular book. It's a common idea in Sweden to perform this death cleaning. And it means you hit a certain age, and I'm not telling you I'm not saying it has to be 75, you get to pick that age. But when you kind of realize, okay, I'm probably not the one person on the planet who's gonna live forever. And you start thinking about, what could I start letting go of? And David Eckert is a professor down at KU, and he is a gerontologist, and he talks about this idea of confronting our possessions in later life. And that's, I think, what it feels like for a lot of our clients, because it feels like it's a mountain that they've got to climb, right? This gal, confronting your possessions in later life, that is scary. And so kudos to her for finally agreeing to do it, because that's scary. So if we can confront our possessions all throughout our life, instead of it, waiting until just trying to do it all at once, it's probably going to be a better experience. I'm the mother to a 14-year-old and an almost 11-year-old. My daughter is 14. And this is a lesson that I'm trying to teach my teenage daughter. And when she wants to buy some fancy shoes or some name brand jeans or whatever, stuff cannot bring us contentment or peace. And as I was saying that to her the other day, I thought, wait a minute, I need to say that to myself, because my generation, how our stuff enters into our home is when we're sitting at home and we're scrolling, and with a couple taps, I can have stuff delivered to my home, and I've just spent $100 like that. But also, I thought that applies to my clients too. Stuff cannot bring us contentment or peace. And what's the hardest is when we think about this keepsake clutter, keep the memories, not the stuff. Because when we lose a loved one, that stuff is pretty comforting at first, isn't it? We don't, and I'm not suggesting you do, empty out your loved one's closet 2 days after the funeral. I'm not suggesting that. But if it does give us a comfort, it's a short-term comfort, right? Buying that sweater on the internet makes me happy for a day or two. But 2 weeks from now, I won't continue to feel that contentment, right? Life is full of challenges. We should not let our stuff be one of them. This gal had a lot of challenges in her life. She missed her husband dearly. Stuff should not be on that list of things that's making life hard. Okay, so my advice is not to let go of everything. It's to keep the best and let go of the rest. Now that's a nice little mantra that can be applied in every single category of stuff in your home. Remember when I said, let's start with the low-hanging fruit? Okay, go into your linen closet. And I'm going to give you a couple tips here. The first is to utilize what I call the power of counting. It's really simple. It means you count your stuff, okay? So if you open up your linen closet and you see your bath towels, count how many bath towels you have in that linen closet, okay? Just count it. And then count how many people are living in your home. 1, 2. And then count how many times a week you take a shower. And then count how many times a week you do your laundry. And then you can figure out, you get to decide, I'm going to suggest it's 5 or less, but you get to decide how many towels per person you need in your house, right? In our house, it's 5 sets of towels per person in our house. We have 4 people. That means we have 20 bath towels in our house. Again, I'm not saying you need to be a minimalist, but I have seen, and some of you might be in this room, enough linen closets that have 35 bath towels in them. Okay, for one person that's living in that house. So that's why I recommend utilizing that exercise of the power of counting. Now let's head over into the kitchen and open up where your coffee cups are. Count how many coffee cups are in that cupboard. And then in case you forgot, count how many people are in your room or in your house. How many times a day you drink coffee and how many times a day you do the dishes. Count your wine glasses. Count your shoes. Count your black pants, okay? These things that count your screwdrivers, guys. Count how many belts you have. These things that we tend to accumulate multiple of, you get to decide how much is enough, but we can't decide until we know kind of how bad the damage is. And this technique comes from one of my team members. Her name is Jane. She's a retired nurse, and she told this story one day of being at the hospital. It was a slow day. They were at the nurse's station, and one gal, she confessed that she had 85 pairs of shoes at home. And Jane thought, oh my goodness, what is wrong with that lady? Who has 85 pairs of shoes? And she kind of got all huffy, and she went home and she thought, I'm going to count how many pairs of shoes I have. And by the time she counted all the shoes in her master closet and all the shoes in the guest closet, and then went downstairs in that cedar closet and counted all those shoes, it was 103 pairs. So it's kind of like, you know, when your pants are a little tight and you feel like I've put on some weight, we don't know how bad the damage is until we get on the scale and we see the number. So I'm asking you to see the number. How many coffee cups do you have? How many wine glasses do you have? It puts it into perspective when you think about, oh, I can't let go of this. Okay, we have 17 coffee mugs for 2 people. I think we can, right? And so this phrase, keep the best, let go of the rest, how do I decide which coffee cups to keep? You keep the best ones, okay? If you had to rank them, you decide what your number is. I'm going to keep 10 coffee mugs. You pick out your favorite 10. you let the rest go. You pick out your favorite towels, you let the rest go. But I hate to waste. I don't want to just waste these items, right? We hear that a lot. And I would argue that if you have things in your home that are not being used, that is wasteful, right? Because there are people in the community who can put those items to use, but not while they're sitting in your dusty house, right? We got to get them out into the community. We got to donate them, give them away for free, right? Pass them out to family, friends. You've got a grandkid who's setting up an apartment. They can be using your excess can bless someone else's, right? Have you ever heard that? I saw this on social media, but your extra pair of shoes could be someone else's only pair of shoes. Okay, so you can let go now. Don't you dare keep an item out of guilt. If you don't care much about an item, but you know it was important to a loved one who passed away, it's okay to let go. You can't keep everything. And why is it okay to let go? Because objects don't hold memories. People do. So my mother had this beautiful fur coat that she loved. It was a big thing in the 80s to get it was a big thing, okay? Not only did my mom get one, but then my grandma had to get one. And we live in North Dakota. It's actually cold enough to wear those fur coats. Okay, great. It was like her pride and joy. It's okay that I don't have that fur coat anymore because the arms were too short. I live in Nebraska where it's not really that cold, okay? And where am I going to wear it? I'm not going to wear it to work. Okay, you wear it to church on Christmas Eve. That was pretty much the only time my mom wore it to. Does that mean that I don't remember her? Does it mean I don't respect her? Does it mean I didn't love her? No, it means that I didn't want the fur coat. Your kids don't want everything, but they will want some things. I write about this in this book. One thing that I do have, I have several things from my mother. One thing I did keep of hers is a ratty white cardigan cotton sweater. It's hanging in my closet. She died in 2005. It'll be 20 years in December. It still hangs in my closet. We lived out on the farm. We grew up, you changed clothes when you went to town, right? We had the home clothes and then we had the town clothes. This is a sweater that she would never have worn to town, but she wore it all the time at home. And I remember snuggling with her when I was sick. I always wanted to wear her sweater. It kind of felt like she was hugging me. It smelled like her for a long time. It doesn't smell like her anymore. That is what I kept. I kept the old ratty cardigan sweater and I sold the fur coat. And that's okay, because we can't keep an item out of guilt, and we can't keep everything, because our house is living space, it's not storage space. And so, I don't know if a slide is coming up here, but I often say when you think about the keepsakes you want to keep things that you can use or display. Now, my example of the cotton cardigan sweater is not a great example because it's not on display, but it is in my closet, and I see it when I'm in my closet, okay? But I also have her rolling pin, okay? So that's when I need a rolling pin. I don't need a new one, I have hers. And so I can bring it out and I can use it, and it's just something for me. It just reminds me of her, because what's the point of a keepsake? There is no real point. You keep it for keep's sake, right? You keep it to remind you and make you happy. And it can't do either one of those things if it's in a box in the basement. Or heaven forbid, a storage unit. Don't even tell me, okay? So here's some tips for dealing with keepsake items. You can break up a set. China, that happens a lot, right? You don't have to keep the whole 18 place settings of China. You don't. You can keep 4 place settings if you want. And you can donate, yes, donate the rest. You can sell the rest. It won't really affect the value because it's not worth that much anyway. You can break up the set. Your furniture won't miss its family. If you have matching antique, dresser and sideboard, you can separate those up. It's okay. If letting go of a special item, take a photo of it first. Yes, of course. Spread the wealth. Share family keepsake items with siblings and cousins. If you are dealing with your own stuff and you've got 3 children and you've identified some items that you really, really want to stay in the family, each kid gets a third, okay? Start with a box labeled with each kid, and as you're sorting, okay, you divide it up. And then at Christmas time, You wrap it up very pretty. You put their name on it. You look them in the eye, and you say, honey, this is really special. I'm so happy to give this to you. If you can squeeze out a little tear when you're giving it to them, they're not going to reject it at that point. But if you back a U-Haul up to their house and say, I'm just dropping off your inheritance, they're not going to react well to that. So you have to pick and choose those things, okay? Also, to sort through your keepsakes regularly. That's what I was talking about. When you lose a loved one, you are going to want to hold on to those things for a while, and that's okay. You get to choose how long you hold on to them. But at some point, those keepsakes, if I still had my grandparents' house full of stuff, they died in 1992 and 1994, weighing on me in North Dakota, that would not make me happy, right? That would be an albatross around my neck. There is a point at which it stops being a comfort, and now it starts being a burden. And the reason for that is that our attachment to keepsakes changes over time, right? In those first few years, it could seem impossible to let go of those things. My mom's been gone now, it'll be 20 years in December. It's a little easier to let go of some of those things, but I did a pretty good job of it right away. But your attachment to that stuff changes over time. Remember when you went to the prom and you kept your corsage? Did anyone here do that? Okay, it was very important right away for the first 6 months, maybe the first year, okay? If you're moving to the Legacy tomorrow, are you gonna bring that corsage from your high school prom with you? No, okay? It gets easier to let go of some of that stuff as time stretches on. So that's why it's good to sort through your keepsakes regularly, because what might have been important to you 5 years ago, it might be easier to let go of now. Ask what memories are most significant. So that's what I did with my mother and her fur coat. I didn't have a lot of significant memories of my mom and her fur coat. I had a lot of significant memories of her in that cotton cardigan. So that's why that keepsake was much more significant to me than the fur coat was. And so if you fished a lot with your dad, you want to keep some of that fishing stuff. But if he was really into woodworking and fixing cars and that was never your thing, then it's okay to sell even his classic car. It's okay. Call Changing Spaces, we'll sell it for you. But if you don't love the classic car, and if you don't have happy memories of, working on the classic car with him, he loved it. It's okay if you don't love it. It doesn't mean you don't love him, because objects hold memories. Objects don't hold memories, people do, right? So you have to ask what memories are most significant to you. And when you think about what your kids and grandkids are going to keep, ask yourself what memories are most significant to them, right? That's the stuff they're going to want to keep. And they get to choose what that stuff is. All right, so keep the best, let go of the rest. Try to keep only what you can use or display. This next bullet point I altered because we're meeting in a church. If it's not a heck yes, then it's a no. It should be, and I said that at a presentation once this last year, if it's not a heck yes, then it's a no. And I had a gal say, that's like my rule of no sevens. And I thought, what does that mean? She said, on a scale of 1 to 10, everything that I keep needs to be an 8, 9, or 10. If it's 7 or below, let it go. How do you like that? Okay, and I think about that. I said I like to shop. If I'm shopping for a new sweater and I'm like, it's on sale, but is it an 8, 9, or 10? Oh, it's like a 7. No, okay, let it go. So when you're sorting through your keepsakes, or if you're downsizing, if it's not a heck yes, then it's a no. The heck yes, that's the best. The cream of the crop. We're keeping the best. We're letting go of the rest. If I think about my clients, most of my clients, I bet, are giving up, on average, 2/3 of their stuff. So that means they want to keep that top third, okay? And then they can give some stuff to family and friends, but then the rest of it goes on a sale for someone else to enjoy. So how do you let go without the guilt? It's not only internalizing this idea that we hold memories, our stuff does not, but understanding that stuff And love and memories are three separate things. They're not the same. How much stuff you keep from a loved one is in no way correlated to how much you love them or how much you will miss them or remember them when they are gone. Three separate things. You can have a lot of memories that are not associated with love, right? Just because you have a memory of something. This was 15 years ago probably. We were helping a gal empty out a house. She was, her husband had died, and she was downsizing, and he had all of his books from going through AA. And she was like, oh, what do I do with all this stuff? And I said, well, do they bring back memories for you? And she said, well, yeah, they bring back memories. I said, do they make you happy? No. Okay, then there's your answer, right? Things that can bring back memories doesn't mean you should necessarily keep them. This is your chance to edit history a little bit, right? You don't have to keep the painful memories. If you baked with your mother in her kitchen and all she ever did was yell at you for rolling out the pie crust wrong, you don't have to keep the pie crust roller, okay, the rolling pin. Only keep those memories that are those things that are associated with love. You may be surprised by what keepsakes your children and grandchildren want. It may not be your fur coat or your fancy dishes. I have to tell you, I've got one more minute. A story. Several years ago, I went on an appointment to a potential client, and she had some cats, and she had these cute china bowls on the floor filled with water for her cats. And I noticed, I looked at it, and I said, oh my goodness, that is the same china that my grandmother had. And I have this set. This is my dad's mother, and she actually died when my dad was a child, so I never met her. His stepmother is the woman I knew as my grandmother. But these were Edith. Edith was her name, and I had some of Edith's dishes, and I thought it was a very pretty pattern. But that day that I saw that bowl being used as a cat dish, because the client said, oh yeah, isn't that cute? I found it at Goodwill. And I just thought, why not, why have an ugly plastic bowl? Why not have a pretty bowl? It was a reminder to me that one person's family heirloom could be another person's cat dish. And so the meaning is not in the object itself, right? We associate the meaning with it. To her, it's a fun little thing she picked up at Goodwill. To me, it's like, oh, it's my Edith's dishes. Okay, so this is an example of some keepsakes that I have on display in my house. My grandmother, she kept one of those sentence-a-day journals for 5 years. So these are the 5-year diaries, and she has them from like the 40s up until the 80s. She was born in 1910. So cool. These are cool keepsakes. I've stuck them in a basket and I hung them on the wall. So they're not only something I can read, but it's something we can look at. And it's something that the kids can look at and ask about. And now suddenly it's a topic of conversation. And it's a way for me to talk about my grandparents with my family, right? Okay, we're running out of time, but that's my grandmother and her bachelor brother, Albert, who never got married. And so my mother was an only child, and she was also an only grandchild because my grandmother had 2 brothers who never got married. And so who got all of Albert's stuff and all of Melvin's stuff? Well, my grandmother did. And then who got all of that stuff? Well, my mother did. And then my mom passed away in 2005. Now, guess what, okay? I got rid of Albert's organ the minute I found this photo, because I thought, okay, here's a cool photo of him holding the organ. I don't need the organ as well. And so someone from our community had come over for coffee, and we started talking about the organ, no, it's not an organ, it's a accordion, thank you, sorry, it's an accordion. We started talking about the accordion, and he said, oh, I think I'd like to have that. Great, here you go, take it. This picture is so much better than having the accordion, right? Okay, make a video. We all have a video camera in our hands right now. Make a video explaining what the items are and telling stories that relate to it, or write it down. But if you think about, wouldn't you love to have a video of your grandparents talking? Yeah. So that means that your grandkids someday will want that video. So even if you think, oh, I don't want to, your kids and your grandkids are going to want that someday. Wrap your keepsakes and give them to gifts as family members now. Have a no return policy. That was the scenario that I was explaining, okay? When you wrap it up, make it easy to display. Our legacy is so much more than our stuff. All of us can think about loved ones we have lost. All of us can think of like our grandparents. And we probably have some objects that belong to our grandparents, but probably not a lot anymore. But we can all tell a story that we remember about our grandparents. They've taught us games, card games. They've taught us lessons. They've taught us recipes, hymns, religious beliefs, work ethic, skills, woodworking skills, whatever, fishing skills. Our legacy is so much more than our stuff. And it's a lot more important than our stuff, right? So there you go. There's my grandparents again. Look at how cute they are. Okay, let your legacy be how you love, how you treat people, and the light you bring to the world instead of the stuff you leave behind. So this is kind of a heavy message, but it's meant to be freeing. It's meant to get you in the right mindset of like, you know what? I can let go of those Norman Rockwell plates. It's okay. And it's okay if my son doesn't want them. It's okay. And I hope you all have some mutual funds, because the Norman Rockwell plates are not going to fund your retirement. I am sorry. I run estate sales, and we try to get as much money as we can out of your stuff. But what I tell my clients is that the value of the stuff in the home pales in comparison to the value of the home itself, right? All of your stuff is used stuff. All the stuff in my house is used stuff too, right? I'm not trying to insult you. It's all used stuff. But the box it's sitting in is an expensive house. And that expensive house is what we're going to sell, and that's what's going to pay for our apartment at the Legacy, right? But our floral couch, when we moved my mother-in-law, she got $12 for her floral couch. She was pretty sad. But we found this cool leather bag in her garage from the 70s, and that got $45. And so she couldn't believe that this old ratty purse got more money than her floral couch. But that's okay, because the memories weren't in the stuff, right? There are no awards to collect or accolades to be earned for having the greatest amount of sentimental stuff. You can't win at being the most sentimental. Your loved ones will not value you more for having an unmanageable amount of sentimental trinkets and doodads. So I want you to think through. I want to just tell you, NASM, we are our own business. We're not a chain or a franchise or anything, but there are companies like us all across the country. So if you have a loved one in another state, this might be a good website to check out, nasm.org. We're part of a national association of senior move managers. So if you need someone like us in Indiana, chances are there's someone like us, and you can find them there. You just click on Find a Senior Move Manager. So in your little bags, you have a notebook. If you want to write your name down, you can check. Don't send me anything. I'm just hoping to win a free book. I am going to give away a copy of 3 books. Keep the Memories, Not the Stuff. My first one is called Ready to Right Size. It's a step-by-step guide on how to go through the downsizing process. Have you ever noticed that most books are far too long? These books are short. They're not meant to help you procrastinate even more. These books are about action, okay? And then my 2025 calendar planner is a right-sizing planner where it helps you achieve that power of focus, where you focus on a new room in your house every single month, okay? Think about some questions. I'd love to answer any questions that you have. If you want to put your name on that piece of paper, I'll send this bag around and you can put that piece of paper in there and we'll do a drawing for 3 books. She's got a microphone that she will give to you if you have a question, or if you want to share about what your problem area is. Yes.
Do they start with an opening price?
Yes, they do. She's asking about our online auctions. So we've done in-person estate sales our whole 17 years. And then in March of 2020, when everything shut down, I had 11 estate sales scheduled in the next 8 weeks. And we weren't supposed to be gathering. And we have 1,500 to 1,800 people come through our estate sales. And every one of those 11 estate sales represented 11 clients who had sold their house and sat across from me at the kitchen table, and I had promised them, we will empty out your house. And so in a sheer panic, I talked to my husband and I said, Todd, we got to figure something out. We got to empty out these 11 houses. And of course, I was only looking 8 weeks down the road because we didn't know how long COVID was going to last. And so my husband is a computer programmer, which comes in handy sometimes. And so he helped me develop the online auctions. So we still do in-person tag sales. We now have added online auctions where we take photos of items, put those photos on our website, and people bid. And they worked so well, they're now the most profitable part of our business. But we continue to offer both kinds of sales, and they both do extremely well. Every item on our online auction starts at $1. Scares people, I know. You watch our online auctions, you go to our website, it's on all the information you have there, and you watch. Doesn't stay there for long. Our auctions run from Tuesday to Thursday at noon. There's usually a lot of activity Tuesday. There's not very much activity Wednesday. There's a flurry of activity Thursday morning. The price usually doubles between Thursday morning and Thursday at noon. We leave up the realized prices for everything all through the weekend. So from Thursday at noon through Sunday night, you can look and see what stuff actually sold for, which is kind of fun. We sell cars that way, starting at $1. We sold an old roached out Model T a couple weeks ago for $850. It starts at $1. We sold a John Deere tractor for $45,000 in January, and it started at $1, believe it or not. And the reason we do that is kind of sneaky, because it lowers the barrier to entry for people to bid. So if they even think that that vase is even kind of pretty, well, okay, I'll bid $1 on it. And then it sits there, and they go about their day, and they're thinking, I think I'm going to win that vase. And they start thinking about where they're going to put it in their house, and, you know. Well, then Thursday morning comes along, and then some other person bids against them, and now they're not winning anymore. Well, now the original bidder is angry. And now they're going to rebid, and then the other person's going to rebid, and it's kind of competitive, and there's no ceiling, which is a beautiful thing for changing spaces and for our clients who are selling things. The customers get a little frustrated sometimes. They can't get a deal. At an in-person tag sale, things start at a price and then they discount over time, right? 25% off and then 50% off as the sale goes. And an online auction is exactly the opposite. It starts at $1 and there's no ceiling until people stop bidding. The auction ends Thursday at noon, but we do have overtime bidding in place. So anytime someone bids at the last minute, we add 5 minutes. And then if someone else bids, we add another 5 minutes. And sometimes it goes on for an hour or two until someone just drops dead of exhaustion and frustration, and then the other person wins. So, yep. Okay, questions? Yes, ma'am? Oh, yeah.
Wall hangings that you've had in a 3-story house and you're going to a 2-bedroom apartment, how do you kind of decide there? I mean, just the ones you love when they might not be the right size?
Yes, I know. I always say that artwork is mostly easy enough to move that I say if you love it, move it with you, because when you move into a new space, lots of times you're going to have to be in there for a couple days before you have an idea of where you want to hang some of that. So I say bring it with you. And if you do move into a retirement community, most of those places their maintenance guys will hang it for free for you. And then whatever you don't end up using can be just as easily dealt with at that point. I'd rather you do that than regret not bringing something. Yeah. But I mean, certainly take into account some measurements, right? And so if you have something that's really huge, you probably know there's not going to be room for it at the new place. Yeah. So.
What is your commission structure, or for your live auction, how is that set up?
Yep, it changes. It kind of depends. But if we do an in-house estate sale or an online auction, we take 35% plus a setup fee, which depends on how much work there is to be done in the home. If we do a consignment auction where we have a warehouse where people maybe who are not moving, they can bring us things to sell, it's between 50 and 70%, just kind of depending on what the items are. Typically, it's about 50. Yeah. So let's see. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. The first book I'm gonna give away is Ready to Right Size. It's that step-by-step guidebook on how to move. This comes with a free moving truck. 2 men in a truck is going to be at your house next Wednesday, and you're going to be moving. Just kidding. Cora Johnson. Oh, all right, Cora. Yes, you're welcome. This next one is Keep the Memories, Not the Stuff. This is about getting rid of that keepsake clutter. This goes to Bonnie Bake. Who's that? Is that in the back row? All right, okay. And then this person is going to be super right-sized by the end of the year because they're going to follow the tips in this calendar, and that's Ardith Whirl. All right, okay. So those books are available on Amazon if you would like. Okay, what other questions?
We're in the process of trying to get rid of documents. Is there a place you can go online or something that would give you suggestions on how long you should keep the different documents? Like utility bills or tax papers or that type of thing?
The old advice was always 7 years of tax returns and the supporting documents for your tax returns. The IRS has lowered that to between 3 and 5 years. If you want to be careful, you can keep 5 years. That's what I do. I keep 5 years of tax returns and the supporting documents. But that's it, just the tax returns and the supporting documents, which we have kind of a complicated tax return. Our folder is about 2 inches thick, 5 of those. That does not mean you keep every credit card statement or every utility bill. It's only those documents that you give to your tax preparer, for doing your tax return. And so a lot of things, of course, now are online. And so if you did need to access a lot of that, either you or someone else could access it online. For utility papers, I keep it a year. And we never go back and look at them, but I do. I keep them one year at a time, and then usually around tax time, when I'm digging through our filing cabinet, I take out the old years, the last year's utility bills, and then you can sit around and wait for a free shredding day if you want, or you can take it to the UPS store or the FedEx Kinko's store, and they charge you 73 cents a pound to shred it. And that's what I do once a year. I do that with my business documents as well. We keep our financial and our client folders for 5 years. And so then every year I go out and I take out, the oldest one as I put in the newer ones, and I just take it over to FedEx Kinko's, and I usually have 1 box a year to shred. You don't have to shred everything that has your name and address on it. The most important things to shred is anything, of course, with an account number or a social security number, because our name and address is out there. I could, find your address like that on the internet. And so the address is not necessarily something that you have to shred if you don't want to. If you want to, you can. We recommend for our clients to try to get down to 1 filing cabinet or less, especially when they're downsizing. And I think we operate in my household out of a 2-drawer filing cabinet. So if you have 3 or 4 or 5 filing cabinets, that's a sign that maybe it's time to right size going through that. And sorting through your papers is something that's hard for someone else to do. It'd be hard for Changing Spaces to go through your papers, and it would even be hard for your kids to go through your papers because they're not going to know as well as you do what's truly important. Okay, what else? Okay, he's got some stuff. I knew he had a lot of stuff to deal with.
We all like stories. Mm-hmm. Can you give us a couple of stories about a family perhaps that had problems that developed during the process, siblings not getting along, feelings hurt? And
do you want me to include names or no? Should I include names or no?
No. No. In fact, you can make this a kind of a composite story too, and maybe another story about something that really worked well, and you saw the children, probably adults, getting along well and in a good memory, a good situation afterwards, because that's really what you're looking for.
Yeah, that's the goal. You are so right. I'm going to start with the good story. It gives me goosebumps because I remember, and it wasn't even my clients, but this was back pre-2014. So this was like maybe 12, 13, 14 years ago. We helped a man move into a retirement community. We sorted with him, packed, moved over. It was at one of the legacies. And that night, the night of move day is a long, chaotic, stressful day, okay, right? All of the adult children gathered at the legacy, and they had reserved one of the private dining rooms in the legacy, and they all went down for dinner as a family in this private dining room together, and they invited our team member to go with them, and so that's how I heard about this story. And they opened the dinner with a toast, and all of the adult children gave a toast to their parents, and thanking them for all the support that they have given them and how much they love them throughout the years. And my team members that were there, it just brought tears to their eyes because they thought, wow, that is a family who is doing it right. And as a parent, I think about those stories and I think, what did they do? I want to do that. I want my kids to act like that when they move us into the retirement community, right? To everyone gather and be grateful and show that love. And so whenever I work with a family who is emptying out the home of a parent after they've died and the siblings are working together and it seems like it's going well, I'm always sure to tell them, your parents would be so proud of you. Good job. You're doing a really good job. Because your parents do not want to see you fighting. Now here's the other story that I have. It was about a baseball. And this was a client, a family that we had helped before. We had helped them move into a retirement community, and then several years went by, and now both of them had gone to skilled care. No one had emptied out the independent living apartment for months, almost a year. And so guess what happens when you don't empty out an apartment in independent living? You're paying for it, right? Every single month. They don't care if you're living there, okay? But if your stuff's in there, you're paying rent on it. So it had been almost a year. So finally, they called Changing Spaces back in to help them empty out this apartment. And our team member basically had to serve as the intermediary between these two sisters who could not get along. And it just continued the whole time. I mean, we sorted for days and days and days, and who gets this and who wants this, and mom promised me this, and I gave her this, and blah, blah, blah. And it all ended, okay, we thought we were finally done, and then there came a question of a missing baseball. And the one sister said, I know she took that baseball. And the other one was convinced that the other one stole the baseball. And I don't think that they ever got it really resolved. But here's the thing, of course, it wasn't really about the baseball, was it? And so often we see that when grown children are fighting over stuff, and I say that in my book, Keep the Memories, Not the Stuff. It's not really about the stuff, is it? It's about all these underlying issues with the relationship, and it just kind of explodes when you're dividing up mom and dad's things. So, yeah. I love working with seniors because when you're in your 7th, 8th, or 9th decade, it is really, it shows the compounded decisions you've made over time, right? And I love being able to have a front row seat to, wow, what a fantastic 87-year-old. How did he get there? You know, and it makes me think about like what decisions, like those parents, how did they raise their kids? When their kids were 14 and 11, what were they doing to create that kind of unity? It's such a privilege to see that up close, because I think if you don't work with older adults, you can be kind of removed from that, and you can kind of think your decisions don't matter, and you know, but they do, because you see the result is compounded over time. Yep.
I've got a little story that I'd like to tell you. We moved away from here 40 years ago, and the kids went all over the country. My wife developed dementia. We need to come back here where the family was. We asked each of them to come down and go through the house because we knew we were going to downsize when we got here. The kids all came down and said, if there's anything you want us to keep, blah, blah, blah. They did that. Did a good job of it. When we finally moved here, they said, where are the encyclopedias? Now, we go back a long way. We started with those encyclopedias in 1960, and we bought the updates every year.
Oh, every year, nice business model, yeah.
Today you get that on Google,
Right,
but they grew up
yeah.
going through school and using those encyclopedias. They got wet and they got damp, they got this, that, and the other thing. Were very well worn. And like I say, for many years we subscribed. And that was the one thing in our downsizing move here. I still got a lot of stuff. She's now in a nursing home. But how can you, we tried and we had each of them come down when we were living in Arkansas. Each of them come down and point out, keep this, keep that, keep that. Or I want this, I want, you know. We went through as best we could. But what a dilemma and a surprise.
Right, and so they did not keep the encyclopedias, and neither did you. Is that what you're saying? And they missed them? Yeah.
Yeah, well, they would not have, I asked each one of them, would you have liked those,
Right,
those 50 volumes?
yeah,
that brought in?
right.
Would you have taken them? Well, no.
Probably not, right, exactly. They could get them on eBay now, I bet, if they want. They'd have to pay a pretty penny for them, but my husband always says that too. They had an set of encyclopedias, and he said, I used to pore over those things because there was nothing else to do. You know, it's so different from the way our kids are growing up, right? Yeah.
If you decide to use your old china, or especially your leaded crystal bowls to feed your pets, be aware that lead can leach out.
That's
So
right.
especially don't use your leaded crystal bowls for water, because it'll leach and you'll hurt your pets.
Good tip. Yes.
You're not doing this for a hobby. What does a household auctioneer, what's their rate? What's online auction or a tag sale?
Yep. So our commission on those sales is typically 35% if it's done out of a home, plus a setup fee, which depends on how much work there is to be done in the home. So, you know, we work with some houses where everything is neat as a pin, and we work in other houses where they haven't thrown out a paperclip in 45 years. And so that's why we always have to do in-home, we do free in-home consultations, and then we will send you a quote for the setup fee, and then the commission is 35% if we do a whole house auction out of your house, or an estate sale. And those happen after someone has moved out, or after someone's passed away. We don't do those in a house where someone's living.
Any more questions? We have time for one more question.
Oh, she's got.
I just have a comment. My rule to keep some of my stuff down, since I've moved several times in the last couple of years to my daughters, if you don't want it back and I have to dust it, you can't buy it for me.
There you go. There you go. Right? Because so many times people keep things because they feel guilty. Well, my daughter gave that to me, right? No. Because it's a project now. Like you said, you have to dust it. You have to keep it clean. And the point of a knick-knack is to make you happy. And so if it doesn't make you happy anymore, get rid of it. It's fine. Okay, thanks, guys. See, I told you. We could stay for a couple more hours, but...
Well, thank you so much for coming tonight. We hope this has been helpful. You now know who Janine is. You know where she is. She's got her business cards back here. And we want to thank you for coming. So the next presentation in this series is going to be on March the 4th. It's also on a Tuesday night. It's at 7 o'clock. The speakers that night will be from the Nebraska United Methodist Foundation, which is located here in Lincoln. This is a United Methodist Church. There are a lot of other United Methodist churches, and some of you might belong there. So do come back and hear what they have to say about what they do, how they're beneficial to your church, how they're beneficial to this church, and all churches across the state of Nebraska. Thank you so much for coming. Good night.